show to highlight any local brands that I may be wearing. And tonight I am wearing XI11, which is a 16-year-old entrepreneur in Baltimore. And so I encourage you guys to support your local brands. And tonight we have a special guest. We have an author, a scholar, a father. I mean, so many titles, right? And so I'm going to let him introduce himself, and we're getting ready to get into the journey. So, how you feeling tonight, good brother?
I'm feeling great, man. I'm feeling great. I hope I'm coming through pretty clear.
Oh yeah, you're coming in clear, man. And so when I created the show, I wanted to make sure that I had guests to represent everyone across the scope of gifts and talents, right? And so before we get into the journey, if you can just introduce yourself, let everybody know where you're from, because we're going to have listeners from all over the US, and just a brief overview of all you're involved in. And we're just getting ready to take it back to day one.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So, like you said, my name is Tyree Huddleston. From Baltimore, Maryland. Um, Born and raised West Baltimore, Southwest Baltimore. Uh, I have had a pretty long journey through a lot of different careers. Um,
Mm,
Over 20 years in law enforcement.
mm,
2014, I took early retirement from law enforcement to venture into entrepreneurship. I had an opportunity that presented itself, and I took a leap of faith, man. I still had a couple years before I would have been able to officially retire, but I took this leap of faith, and it set me on a journey that kind of brought me to where I am today. As you said, I'm a father. That's the most important title that I hold. That means the world to me, and that's really what inspired this whole book project. I started this book project in 2014, um, and the original title of the book was called Letters to My Sons, which
mm,
actually came from as a result of me leaving. That my opportunity for business took me out of the state of Maryland, right, and my kids were still here in Maryland.
okay.
And so I mean, I'm an involved dad, man. I mean, that's there's different levels to parenthood, right? So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I'm an involved dad, man, and you know what I mean. So to go from picking my kids up from school every day to not seeing my kids for
Mm,
sometimes a week, 2 weeks at a time, it was a big pull for me, and it was an emotional pull. So embarking on something new, and then trying to wrestle with I don't even know what the word is, but displacency syndrome. You know what I mean? From being apart from your kids, and apart from a routine that you're so familiar with. But I took that opportunity, man, for the sake of showing my kids, no matter how old you are, chase your dream.
mm,
That entrepreneurship was a dream of mine. It had been a dream of mine for a long time. So I wasn't going to let the fact that I couldn't see them every day stop me from chasing that dream, and just kind of taking that leap of faith, man. So hopefully, that I was able to show them something from taking that leap of faith. Um,
man.
but as a result of that, like I said, as a result of being that far away, the only way I was able to connect with them on a regular basis was via letters. Um,
Wow.
I was coming out of a marriage, a long marriage. It got rough at the end, and when we
Mm,
split, unfortunately, she kind of tried to create a break, and in between the relationship, and communication with them was not as easy as just picking the phone up and calling them. So I had to
mm,
find a workaround, and the workaround became me writing these letters, and the letters became therapeutic for me as well as therapeutic for them, and so that's where that whole concept for that book came from. But during that time of running my business, man, I'd gotten into self help books. I found audio books, and it
mm,
began to change who I was. So what was happening was, as I was writing the book, writing these letters and trying to put this whole outline together, what began pouring out of me was more of the entrepreneurship information, more of the financial literacy information, because that's what I was absorbing through all of the books that I was reading. And unfortunately, sometimes when you're at that period in your life where you're reading so much and you're getting so much information in, there's not a lot of people around you in your circle that want to hear what you have to say. All of the things that you are now becoming interested in, everybody's not on that same level at the same time. So I began writing about it, man, and it began to change my life, and that's how I got to where I'm at today.
So it sounds like we got some series on our hands. I mean, it sounds like you're in the works of just volume one, volume two.
Oh yeah,
Um,
man.
am I getting that vibe? Am I getting that vibe?
So I'm as of right now, I am about halfway through the original book that I started on. So like I said, I had to pivot to finish something. You know what I mean? I've been working on this project for 4 years, right? So I started on it, and actually probably longer than that. I think I started on it in 2015. So we're at 2020 now, so 5 years, and I just wanted to get to completion. When I started doing the project, I told my kids about it. They had a chance to come up with me, out of state for the holiday. And I told them, I said, hey guys, I'm working on a book. You know what I mean? I decided to put some of these letters that I sent you guys into a book. What do you guys think about that? And they got really excited about it. And a year gone by, they would say, hey Dad, what happened to that book? I'm still working on it, man. 2 years
Yeah.
go by. Hey Dad, what happened to that book? I'm still working on it. So I got to a point where I was like, all right, you know what? I just need to complete this project. I need to complete a project so that I can show them start to finish. You know what I mean? I just needed to complete it. So what was coming out of me the most, like I said, was the self-help, the personal development, the financial literacy information. So I pivoted to that. But there's a lot of, as you've started to read, there's a lot of information in the book that I'm basically telling them my story, because that was the outline. The outline and the concept for the original book was the lessons that I wanted to make sure my kids learned from me and nobody else if today was my last day on earth. So I poured a lot of that stuff in there. But again, who I became through that process, the information that I had to share with them from the beginning of the process to the end was completely different, because I was completely different.
Now, how did you deal with those beginning days, right? Getting into the self development, because I remember when I got into sales and I started reading the Brian Tracy's about the psychology of sales. And like you said, you start to grow beyond where you are, and you're so excited. You're trying to share, these great, amazing ideas, and you're starting to really just tap into how limitless you are. So, how did you deal with your surrounding group? Did you kind of have to break away or limit, or how did that process work for you?
Well, like I said, for me, I had the privilege of moving out of the state. I moved to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So the business that I had an opportunity to open up was a marketing firm. So
Okay.
so think about that dynamic, right? That paradigm shift to go from law enforcement, and I was a correctional officer. That's what I did, right? So to go from that that setting, where I couldn't even smile. To smile was almost like to show weakness.
Yep.
To a setting where it was more customer service and leadership driven, right? And I had to make that shift. I literally made that shift in about 8 to 9 months.
Wow.
But sales and sales marketing, it was something that I had started out with. My very first job was MCI WorldCom, and that
Mm.
was back in oof, 97, 98, something like that, right? So that was my very first sales job. I did really well with it, but of course, over a period of time, the responsibility of being a parent, you know what I mean? And you already know how sales is. It's up and down. You know, I had a family, I had responsibility. So the responsible side said, go get a stable job so you can make sure you can always provide and put food on the table and keep a roof over my kids' head. So I kind of had to suppress my passions, the things that I really enjoyed doing. But going back to um, when I was in Pittsburgh, I had a team that I actually had to. It was my job to motivate. I took 4 guys with me from Baltimore. We moved to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Um, we took over a territory and we rocked and rolled, man. And then I grew that team from 4 guys up to a team of 31 guys.
Wow.
I had a contract with Sam's Club and Walmart and Best Buy, and we did in-store retail marketing. So, you know, I had at one point in time 21 locations that I had to staff
Wow.
6 days a week. Yeah. Yeah, man, with two people minimum.
Man. And that's
So
and that transition you made, that was awesome. You know what I mean? Because in those beginning days, was it kind of rough for you adjusting now working with people, or because your earlier days you were kind of adjusting a lot quicker?
well, I think what happened was the experience that I had working in corrections.
Hmm.
You get an opportunity to work with a lot of different people. You know what I mean? People from all different walks of life. So I kind of say that that was God really preparing me for this journey that I didn't even know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To be able to be in a setting that's uncomfortable for most, but to still be able to be comfortable enough to do what's necessary. So that was him preparing me for the journey that I had, you know, had ahead of me.
And it's amazing how that works because it's like certain jobs you took in your earlier days that you just despised. And now later on in life, it's like, wow, I didn't know I was developing a skill set that's really giving me that competitive edge.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. That's exactly how it happened.
Mm, man. So now fast forwarding, right? Because I love the title, right? Because you started off with letters to my son. And then so now we have Dope Boy Fresh, but Dead Broke, a young man's guide to financial awakening. Now, how did you come up with the title? Because I love the title just captivates you. It's like Dope Boy.
Mhm.
Talk about the
So,
title. How did you come up?
so reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, man. Rich Dad Poor Dad is that was the first book that I really took a deep dive into. Right. It Rich Dad Poor Dad, man. It really changed my life. It changed my mindset on
Mm,
money. It changed my mindset on the way I spent money, and
wow.
just the way I manage my life. Right. Um, During that process of writing this book, I realized I had to have a deep dive conversation with myself to see
Hmm.
what my issues and my areas of opportunity were, right?
Hmm.
Because that was I'm developing and I'm trying to develop and motivate people. And my guys, my you know that were working for me, I'm trying to motivate them to be better, but I can't motivate them to be better if I'm not taking heed to what I'm teaching them, right?
Yeah.
So when I look back over my life and all the money I'd made, all the money I'd lost, I had to figure out. Like, okay, what are my triggers? What are my issues? Where am I going wrong? My spending habits, man. My spending habits. I like to stay fresh,
Yeah.
you know, and you know, I mean, being from Baltimore, I had a ton of mentors around me. I had a lot of older people that mentored me along the way, and my dad.
Yeah.
But coming up in Baltimore and coming up in South Baltimore and the projects, the people that we idolized for the things, the material things they had, were the dope boys, you
Yeah.
know? And, the dope boys, the celebrities, the athletes, we idolize these people for the material possessions that they have that we can physically see.
Mm.
And as a result of trying to idolize them and trying to mimic them, when you are not them, you end up broke. And that's exactly what happened, man. I was trying to imitate somebody that I wasn't, and it was breaking me.
You know what? And I love like one of the chapters you have in there. You talk about putting on for the culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's so relevant because people, it's a difference between looking rich and being rich, or looking wealthy and being wealthy. I mean, you'll have people that are on the bus, but they want to show like a Gucci belt, a two, three, four hundred
Absolutely.
dollar Gucci belt,
Yep.
and the person that's actually wealthy is driving around in a little beat up car, with some shoes
Difference
they
in
had.
mentality, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so from your research and how we put it together, what do you really, base that on, right? Because it's, culturally, it's just a lot we have to work on as a whole.
Mhm. So where I think it comes from, I did a lot of research while I was putting this book together. Right, I found this documentary, and if you ever get a chance, it's called it's based out of Africa. Actually, I want to
Okay.
say Uganda.
Mm,
Um, I can't remember the title of it, but anyway,
sure.
what it was is these guys that are over in this country, and it's like really impoverished countries,
Mm,
and they dress to the nines. Like when I say they live in dirt shacks, I mean dirt shacks,
wow.
and they are wearing $1,000 suits, $500 shoes, and
Wow.
literally got dirt floors. So I had to go back and I was like, man, this is not just an American thing. This
Yeah.
is a cultural thing, right? Um, and I think it comes from a place of trying to find acceptance,
Mm,
right? For us here, and in my book, I even talk about where I feel like my passion for clothes and kind of like that love for trying to keep up with an image came from. I shifted from private school. I went to Cardinal Gibbons
hmm.
for middle school,
Okay.
and which was all boy private school. And then I transitioned back in 11th grade to co-ed, public school in the city.
Yeah.
And I was in uniform every day from, you know, middle school all the way up to high school, to then go back to a high school setting that was no longer uniform, that was a
Yeah.
fashion show every day that I went to school. And I didn't have the clothes. You know what I mean? So you go through those periods in adolescence and those experiences that you have. Of course, early on, until people got a chance to know me, and I was able to join some of the sports teams.
Yeah.
You hear the comments. So I just wasn't comfortable in my setting because
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I fit in. So
Mm,
it starts from trying to fit in, trying to be socially accepted,
mm,
and then over a period of time, it says it takes 21 days to develop a habit.
yep.
You keep continuously doing something like this, it becomes a habit. And what you don't realize is you'll be way into your adulthood still with the same habits that you had as an adolescent. And
Mm,
that's what happened for me. Yeah.
mm, mm. So I'm sure putting together this project was not only therapeutic, but I'm sure it was like a detox, really just
Oh, yeah.
kind of cleansing yourself. Talk about that detox, kind of mentally.
Yeah, man. It was an experience for me, man. It was a lot of soul searching,
Mm,
a lot of confronting my own demons,
mm,
um, to really put it together. I was very transparent in the book. I opened up about a lot. You know, on the surface, if you had known me, and I think for a lot of people that are going to read this book,
Yeah.
that have known me for a long time, would probably say that I was pretty responsible, right? And I say that because I bought my first house at 21 years old.
Wow.
Okay, I got married at 21 years old.
Wow.
Right, I had my oldest son turns 21 next month. Okay, so at 21 years old, literally it was, bing, bing, bing. So I jumped into responsibility very early in my life. So if you were to look from the outside looking in, you would say, well, he's not the typical guy. He's doing some very responsible things with his money. He's making some responsible decisions in his life. And that was what was on the surface. But what was under the surface was a guy that had poor spending habits, poor money management skills, and those things affected my relationship. They affected, I end up losing my house. So I was very transparent, man. And these are things that were under the surface that when you look at it, you may think that this is minor, but shopping habits and anything that you do to excess is an addiction, and addictions cause problems, and it caused a lot of problems for me.
Man. And I love that you were so transparent. And so when people read this book, right, what do you want young men and women to take away? I mean, they're going to take away so many things, but when you were writing it with the end in mind, what did you have for them?
I want them to understand a couple things, right? So one, you don't have to fit in by trying to chase images that people are trying to put and portray, but you don't know their story,
Mm,
right? You don't know the story. There's a chapter in the book where I talk about statistics, and I talk about the statistics of NBA players, NFL players, and some
oh,
of the
bro.
celebrities that we see. There's a statistic from what 2000, I think 2005. Um, the average NBA player goes broke within 5 years of retirement. Now think about that. We're
Mm,
talking about guys that are making hundreds of millions of dollars. Okay, NBA players play longer than a second to baseball players. NBA players play just as long, and they're making hundreds of millions. They're not getting paid like football players, but within 5 years of retiring, they are completely broke. But these are the
mm.
guys that we're trying to imitate, right? Football players. The average football player goes completely broken, and most of them are filing bankruptcy within 1 to 2 years of leaving the
Wow.
league. These are the statistics, man, and we're talking about 70% of NFL players. Seventy
Wow.
percent, 70% are completely broke within 2 years.
Wow.
54% of NBA players within 5 years. Right. So what that let me know was, we're trying to imitate people that we don't know what they are really dealing with. People put on for the gram. I look at Instagram, I look at social media, and for a kid coming from the inner city, probably not growing up with much, our first taste of a job where we got steady money coming in, the first thing we
Yeah.
do is we want to look like them. We want to look like we've made it. And that's
Yeah.
not the case. That's not the case.
Mm,
So that's the first thing I want them to take away.
yeah.
The second thing I want them to take away is the mindset, right? I
Mm,
chased dollars for a long time. I chased money from job to job to job, everywhere that was willing to offer me an extra dollar or $2 an
mm.
hour. I was job hopping, right? In the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, I don't know. I'm sure you're familiar with it. Um,
Yeah, man. Awesome book. Awesome book.
yeah. Well, he talked. There's a part. It was probably the part that stuck out with me the most when his rich dad um, took the salaries away from him that he
Yeah.
gave him. Right. When he came in complaining about not being able to go out and play baseball and not
Yep.
being able to do some of the fun things that a kid would do. Right. He's like, okay, well, if you want to work for me, you can work for me for free. Right? And he starts trying to tempt him with money. He's like, okay, well, I could pay you $1. At the time, he was only making a nickel. So he was tempting him with money to see if he could get him to react and see if he could tap into his emotions to get him
Yeah.
his emotions to respond, right? Well, that's what we do. You know what I mean? So we have to kind of suppress those emotions and understand that we shouldn't just work for money, but work for the lesson that you learn. If you focus on working for the lesson more than working for money, you'll understand that the money comes. The money's going to come regardless, but it'll have
Yeah.
a whole lot. The meaning will be completely different, and you'll see your money last a lot longer. So
Mm.
that's the second lesson. And then lastly, just keep a mentality. Have a be open to a mindset shift.
Mm.
Right? Be open to a mindset shift. Understand that success is a mental thing. We're talking about wealth. We're talking about financial growth. That's all mental, right?
Yeah.
So you can have $1 million, and if you have a poor man's mentality, i.e., the celebrities, the athletes,
Mm.
poor man's mentality, you'll always find your way back to poor, regardless how much money you make.
Mm. Man, those three lessons are powerful because if we really teach that from a young age, right? It'll really transform our community, literally. You know what
Absolutely,
I mean? Because you have people, like you said, the dope boys taking risks because they're trying to obtain something, looking at somebody that is going to be short lived. Even if they're making money in the street, it's just a matter of time before that ends. When we
absolutely.
have real estate, I mean, real estate alone, if you want to talk about moving bricks, let's move the bricks of the houses, the brick and
Yep,
mortar, where the
absolutely,
real wealth from generation to generation comes from. But we have to have these conversations like this to make it normal to talk about financial literacy.
absolutely. And that's why I say awakening, man. That's the whole
Mm.
purpose that awakening is on the title, right? It was an awakening for me, that you can you can get deep into it, and there's a lot of ways you can go deep and you can go lateral, but
Yeah.
just touching the surface is an awakening. Somebody is going to read it and it's going to make them snap, and they're going to say,
Mm.
you know what, I need to check myself. It's that awakening. It's sparking that fuse. That's what this book is supposed to be about. There's a lot of self-help books. There's a lot of financial literacy books.
Yeah.
I tell in the very first chapter, I'm not a financial scholar, right?
Yeah.
I am not, uh, you know, certified to tell anybody what to do, how to
That's right.
spend, how to invest their money. That's not me. That's not what this book is about. This book is supposed to spark that fire to
Yeah.
self-reflection. I'm being transparent and telling my story because I realize so many of us have the exact same story, especially from the inner city.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And it's like it goes from generation to generation to generation, you know.
Exactly.
And the one thing that I love about as I was reading through the book is that how you make it right to the point. Like you could have put it where it was a lot of research, but you made it where you were giving great facts, great points, and it was straight to the point. Did you, when you started to sit down and create the book, was that what you really had in mind to make it like straight to the point?
It was. I went through a couple processes of editing, working with my editor, and she was trying to change my wording. You know, and I had to tell her. I said, I want this book. Yeah, it's got to sound like me. You know,
Mm.
I need it to sound like me. You know, it just got to sound like me. It's got to be authentic. So I had to cut, you know, a lot of the jargon out, a lot of the big words, because I know my target audience. My target audience is 17 to 25, 30-year-old males, inner city males. Um,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, here in Baltimore, we don't have the best school systems, right? So I'm not trying to talk over people's head. I want them to be able to digest, comprehend everything that I'm saying in this book and make it make sense. Just like Rich Dad Poor Dad spoke to me,
Yeah.
I needed this to be simple enough language, layman's terms, to make it poignant enough for everybody to be able to receive it.
Well, that's what you did, man. Awesome job. Um, and this is the book. If people want to see it, and I encourage people to go to the website, pick it up, support, share it. Um, Now let's talk about the book creation, right? Because this being your first book, what were the challenges of just kind of not only writing the book, because that, like you talked about in the beginning, that had its own challenges. But once you feel like you either have something or finished, what's like the next step to somebody that may be even thinking about writing a book?
I went through. I self-published a book through Kindle Direct Publishing.
Okay.
Um, I went I went back and forth with trying to shop it around through a bunch of publishing houses, because I
Okay.
felt like the product was really good. I felt like the product would be received well.
Mm.
Um, so I kind of wrestled with that. You know what I mean? I wrestled with, again, should I do it for the purpose of the mission or should I do it for money? Right.
Mm.
And so and that was kind of like the paradigm that I was stuck between, because if I shopped it through the publishing houses, it would have taken me more times, probably more, more turn downs. There would have been a lot of people that would have said, hey, it's not within our forum. So there's a
Yeah.
good possibility that it still may not have been published as of now, right?
Mm.
But I self-published it. I invested my own money into this project, finding the graphic designers. Shout out to Marshall Fox at 120
Mm.
Studios, 120 Design Studios. He
Mm.
did a great job. He's a good friend of mine, long-term friend. So I reached out to people that I knew were in the industry of creation, to help me put this project together. And it was that process. It took, man, probably about 4 or 5 times of him sending me, graphics ideas. And, I'm saying, no, that's not it. No, that's not it. And then finally, when he sent me 4 great options, I posted them on Instagram and Facebook. And
Wow.
I let my, I let my peers, help me make the design choices. And that was the one that won, man. That was the design that everybody seemed to like the most. And and it's Baltimore, man. It's purple, black, and black and gold. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that color scheme, man. And so, what would you encourage someone like yourself when they were starting out? What would you tell them? Maybe some lessons you've learned, maybe something you would do different if they were thinking about writing a book.
um, start journaling early. That's the
Mm.
first thing. I was reading a lot, but I was not journaling. And then when I sit down, that's why I got writer's block the first time around, because trying to pull all of the memories from your head and all of the lessons that you learned over the years at one point in time, it's a little difficult, right? So if you have the aspiration of writing a book, start journaling now. Just daily thoughts, and you can even take your time and do it verbally. If you're not a writer, do it verbally. Almost all phones right now have a record feature on it. If you're in your car, on your way to work, on your way to school, wherever, just pick it up, push record, and whatever's on your mind, whatever thought, it could be a memory that you happen to think about when you're, just out there, and it's like, man, this would be good to put in a book. Just record it, so that when you actually sit down to start writing, you have content already together. So it
Mm.
makes the process a lot easier. And second, Outline, right? Come up with an outline. Once you figure out exactly what you want to write about, just come up with an outline. And your outline will be your chapter titles. And once you have your chapter titles down, just work on it, little bit by little bit. You put a chapter title down and start thinking about what you want to say pertaining to that chapter title name.
Mm.
And it just makes the process a lot easier, man. There's a ton of schools online that will teach you book creation and book writing. Those are the things that I would have done differently, and that I am doing differently now that I'm doing it again and trying to finish up this second project. So,
man, awesome story, awesome journey. Now, before we go, was there anything we didn't touch on as far as the book, the journey, that you wanted to make clear before we go? Because the journey is awesome, the book is awesome. But is there anything else you would like to let the people know before we go?
there is, man. Here's my mission right now. My
Hmm.
mission is to help 2,000 to 3,000 fathers
Mm,
get their finances in order. Okay? 2,000 to 3,000 fathers get their finances and credit in order
mm,
to retake the place and position in the household as head of household, as leader, as support and role model.
mm,
That is the mission. Um, in our community, man, there are a ton of fathers that are unfortunately stuck in this child support system, right? And this is something that's not widely talked about, gets a lot of negative press. But I'm standing in the gap right now, man, because I know what that feeling feels like, to feel
mm,
like you have no way out and that you're stuck in a trap. You feel like you're working a job every day to, at the end of the pay period, not hardly see any money on your paycheck, right?
wow.
And I know how disheartening that is for a guy that's in that situation, right? Like I said, I went through a divorce. I was in that situation myself.
Wow.
What allowed me to find my way out, man, was entrepreneurship,
Mm,
legit entrepreneurship. And I'm gonna tell you why I say legit entrepreneurship. When you create a company or you create a LLC or a business or whatever, right?
mm,
Primarily a S corporation, you have the ability to pay yourself. You
mm,
create paychecks, pay stubs that you can pay yourself. This gives you the opportunity to take something else and balance off and regain control of your life. I had to
wow.
regain control of my life because I was in a state of hopelessness at one point in time, because I just felt like there was no way out of the situation that I was in. Working 40, 60, 80 hours to barely be able to provide for yourself, let alone provide for your kids. So and there's a lot of dads out there right now that are getting a bad rap for being deadbeat dads, but the reality is they just have poor money management habits. That's it. I honestly believe that, man. I talk to a lot of brothers and a lot of guys all
Yeah.
around the world. Just via acquaintances that I've had through my past businesses, and
Mm,
just in conversations that I've had with them about situations that they're dealing with financially.
mm,
Majority of the situations stem back to just poor budgeting skills, poor money management habits, and a lot of us come from families that money management, financial literacy, budgeting was not taught to us.
mm,
It wasn't taught to us. So, we go and get a job, and we're already in debt a lot of times, right? And we're the first thing we do, we get a job, we go get an apartment, we get a car. We're already trying to juggle things that we're not even in a position to actually afford. We're doing things out of order.
mm.
From the outside looking in, it looks like you just don't care. But the reality is you just don't know.
Yeah. Yep.
That's the reality. So that's my mission, man. My mission is to help, 2,000 to 3,000 guys immediately, man. I launched a credit repair business because that was another thing that I had to do. I had to work on my credit. When I was running my business, I was in a situation where I needed credit cards to help me run my business, and my credit was shot. So I had to work on repairing my personal credit in order to attain business credit to assist me in my business. So I decided to go ahead, and that's aside from the book, that's the way that I'm helping immediately. I'm helping immediately guys by helping them repair their credit. Anything on your credit report can be repaired. Um, you know, showing credit management, how to get to the next level. You know, you just talked about houses, and talk about actually flip the real brick, move these bricks, these houses, and buy back the blocks. That's the way we do it, man. That's the way we take back our community, man. It starts at financial literacy, and it stair steps from there.
Ooh. So how can people, so before we go, two things. How can people, reach you, get in contact for your services, like you said, the credit repair, and then once you let everybody know how to get in contact with you, where to reach you, we're going to end on one last word of encouragement.
Okay, sounds good. www.awakenedblackman.world. Awakenedblackman.world. Okay, that's my website. You can go on and reach me there. That's where the book is at. There'll be other merch that'll be up there really soon. Definitely support. What I'm asking everybody to do that purchases the book, you can either purchase it there or on Amazon. If you purchase a book, I'm in need of feedback. I want everybody's feedback. You can send your feedback to my Facebook. It's Tyree Huddleston. When you look up Tyree Huddleston on Facebook, you'll see a picture of the book. Just put your feedback with a hashtag awakened. That's our hashtag for the movement. Hashtag awakened. Okay. And you can connect with me there. The website for the credit repair, it's our financial awakening credit solutions. The website will be up really soon. It's not up yet, but it will be up really soon. But for now, they can just connect with me on Instagram. You can connect with me on Facebook as well. And like I said, you can definitely leave a message on the www.awakenedblackman.world as well.
And then that last word of encouragement before we go, for either people thinking about getting started, changing their lives, whatever you have on your heart, just speak to the people.
Absolutely, man. My last podcast that I did, he sent me out a questionnaire, and the questionnaire was, what would you want to leave last, like a last word. And, what I said was, it's not a sprint, it's a decathlon. And he questioned me. He's like, I've heard a marathon. He's like, I heard Nipsey say, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. But what do you mean by a decathlon? Here's why I say it's a decathlon. A marathon, you're just running laps. It's just you running laps. Well, we understand that in society, it's not going to be just as easy as just running, right? You're going to have to jump some hurdles. You're going to have to swim through some things. You're going to have to bike through some things, right? And so there's going to be obstacles that are going to come in your way and are going to present roadblocks for you that you're going to have to overcome along the way. It's not going to be an easy journey, but I promise you, it is a worthwhile journey. And when you look back and everybody looks back at you, you will know that the journey that you've charted and the course that you've charted was worthwhile.
Man, I love that analogy because, like you said, there's so many different things you have to go through, not only just in life in general, but on a daily basis.
On a daily basis, man. Yeah. From the moment you wake up out of bed, man, you're going through some things. So, it's a decathlon, man. The decathlon's got 10 events, swimming, biking, running, weightlifting, there's a ton of different events in the decathlon, man. And that's exactly what it is. If you decide to embark upon entrepreneurship, if you decide to embark upon, the journey of financial literacy and getting your finances in order, there are
Yeah.
going to be obstacles, man. It's not going to be just easy sailing and easy running. There's going to be obstacles that you're going to incur. Stay the course, keep going.
Man. Well, good brother, I appreciate you coming on the Winner Circle, dropping gems. Um, you know, Dope Boy Fresh, but Dead Broke is out now. So everybody go support, pick up your copy. Not only purchase one for yourself, but purchase, one for someone else and share it with them, man, because who knows who hands this book will touch, man. So I
Holiday
appreciate.
time, man.
Yeah, holiday time, and this is the time that we really need some mental uplifting and different ways to change our thinking because it doesn't matter who you're going to vote for. At the end of the day, it's some things you still going to have to know. You know what I mean? And so the information is what's going to be able to free us. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
so that's what it is. So I appreciate you coming on the show. You're welcome to come back to talk about any of your upcoming projects. And so there's always a spot here for you, brother.
Hey, brother, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you for reaching out to me.
Hey, no problem, man. So peace, love, and blessings. And you enjoy the rest of your night.
I appreciate you, man. You as well.
Thanks a lot. Peace.